if you have any questions during this session on your Teams meeting, if I just bring it over, there is a question and answer feature on the side. So if you pop your questions into here, then I can keep an eye on it as we're going through, and we'll try and stop, but maybe answer the questions in the chat to help you. Or maybe we'll pick up that question at the break. I always try and get through as many as I can. And then, yeah, throughout the session, you're welcome to release your microphone if you need to sort of ask me a question or stop me. We'll try and do that, but we do need to keep to a pace. So I don't want to run into like 12, half one. I'm sure we've all got things to do after this as well. So we'll get through it as quickly, but as at the right pace so everybody can follow along. I see there's a question already. There's a hand up, so I'm happy to try and answer a question now.
Thanks, Anthony. I think you answered my question. I just want to know after 2 hours, the end of the course, are you going to give us a printout?
Yeah,
PDF?
sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Let me do that. So,
brilliant.
The start of the session, we'll be covering the settings of the meter. That part, to be honest, will take us up to about 10:30.
Yep.
Then we'll have a little coffee break for about 10 minutes. And then we normally come back and we just finish the last bit on the meter.
Sure.
That part will take maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we'll then move on to the software at the end. So we'll be done latest 11:30, but we tend to finish a bit earlier. It may be around 11. It just depends on the sort of questions that we get and the pace that we go at.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm sure we've all seen this now. So this is our support website. There's lots of materials on there, and I'll show you this video in a moment for the setup of the equipment. Yeah, so the training is covering 145, 150. The picture you can see at the moment is one of our newer meters, the Larson Davis meters. So this Larson Davis brand we've brought to the company because they have been around a long time. They've got very good quality, but we know that at local authorities, when they're looking at buying new equipment, and housing associations are looking to save money on their equipment, and also for them to be much more modern and easy to use, and more like smartphones. And you kind of have that with your 145 and the NOR 150, but the technology is getting older now. The NOR 145 is built on Windows Mobile. So the technology is over 10 years old, maybe 15 years now, maybe even longer. So these new smartphones are more like these new meters are more like using your Android phones and Apple iPhones. Concerning calibration, you will remember that we used to do these trainings many years ago in person. We'd come around and see in different parts of the country. And one of the benefits of that was that we were able to pick up your equipment for calibration and get that calibrated over the Christmas period for you. Yeah, I'm not here to collect it from you. So what we are offering you is some benefits, some discounts. So we are happy to arrange the collection of your equipment and return of it, the shipping back and forth using FedEx free of charge. So you're welcome to use that. You just need to use this code when you're booking in your calibration, NNR 10. But you also get 10% off the calibration. So that's just anyone that's attended this user group this year will get the 10% off, and you can use it throughout the year because we don't expect you to send in your equipment now if it's not due for calibration. Send it in when it's due. If it's due in August, send it in then, because obviously the longer you wait and do it on the actual day, it actually saves you money as well, right? You don't need to calibrate it more than it needs to be. Your meters need calibrating every 2 years, and your calibrators need calibrating once per year. And if you're unsure on the calibration dates, there should be a label on the back of your meter. So if you have a look on your meter now, just turn it over. It should say like the date that it's due for calibration. So that gives you a good reminder. But if you're unsure, just drop us an email and we can check for you on the serial number. If you're looking to get a price for the calibration, we have an actual calibration page. So on our website at the top, we've got calibration. You can request a quote, but if you already know the price, or you've got an order already, then you can just use the collection request form and fill this in with all your details, or fill this in and we'll just send you the price, the quote back after this, and you just put in your address and all and those sorts of things, and then we'll book it all in and get FedEx to come and pick it up and then ship it back to you once it's done. So nice and easy. And yeah, we know that a lot of customers used to lose their calibration certificates. So we have a calibration portal where all your certificates are held. So whenever you need them, they're just stored there and you can download them as a PDF. Yeah, so let's get into the meter. Let's get on to the next part. Okay, so I've got a link here for the video. I'll just copy this in now. So this video here on YouTube is how to set up the kit. I'm just going to pop that in the chat now. Okay, that's worked. But I'm going to share it on the screen, so you don't need to click the link necessarily. It might be useful for after. Just before we get started, let's have a look at what's in the kit and just make sure that you've got everything that you need to get started with the training. So hopefully you have a calibrator with you. If you don't have a calibrator, don't panic. You can cover this after. But if you do, that's great. The calibrator helps you reference the microphone to check it's working. So we normally calibrate the meter before and after the measurement. So once you get to the property, you calibrate it. And then once you come back to the property to pick up the equipment, we tend to calibrate it to make sure that the microphone hasn't been damaged and that the readings can be trusted. You should have an extension lead for the microphone. You should have a hand switch. It may be called the trigger switch. This is for the complainant to press the button on the hand switch to start the audio recording. You will have in there the windshield, a tripod, a mains adapter, and a microphone. So this video just shows you how to set up the equipment. You can set it up like this now on the tripod. So in the case, we normally place the meter inside. And then we'll take this microphone extension cable. So one part of the cable will go into the top of the meter and the other part will go onto the microphone. The part that goes onto the microphone is the part with the thread on the end. So you can see the connector goes into the meter. There's a little red dot on the top, which aligns with the center of the meter with a light. If you push that in to the meter, and if anyone would prefer not to use this microphone extension cable and just put the microphone on the end of the meter, this is not a problem. And then once you connected the microphone cable, this shows the connection of the power supply. So this will either be on the bottom of the meter if you've got a 145. So on the left, there's a power socket on that side. If you've got the 150, it will be as the right-hand side of this video right now, where there's a flap on the side that you release. And then you can see you can place the connector for the charger into the side of the meter. And hopefully you've kind of worked that out already. If it is your first time, then I'll just give you a second to set that up. Okay, so once that's done, you've then got the hand switch. So in the bag, you should have the hand switch with the extension cable. And this will go into the bottom of the sound level meter on the 145. If you've got the 150, then it will be on the right-hand side. So there are two versions there, as you can see. So the 150 is on the right-hand side of the socket. And on the 145, the socket is on the bottom. Now you don't necessarily need to screw up there are some like screws, so you might need your Christmas cracker screwdriver to do them up. But generally the case will hold in the cable anyway, so I wouldn't panic about that too much. But it definitely helps if it can be locked in. And then the meters then generally just place into the box and the cables run around the side, so it's a nice snug fit. And then you should have the SD card on the bottom of the meter. So just making sure now that you've got an SD card in the bottom of the meter. Otherwise, you won't be able to start a recording today. And then after the SD card, we've then got the part for the microphone. So here we're connecting the microphone to the extension cable. It's very important that when you do this, that you make sure that you only spin this part here. So where our thumbs are, I'll just go back and show you. So this middle section here, it's got like a collar, which is very rough. This is the part that spins. So you basically push the microphone into the end of the cable. It's a slot fit, so it just pushes in. It doesn't need to rotate. You just need to get, there's a little notch on the end of the microphone where it like slots into the cable. Just make sure that you push that in. And then when you want to tighten the two together, it needs to be that loose, rough collar that spins round to tighten it on the thread. Do not turn the whole microphone to tighten it, because you'll just end up unscrewing the microphone. So it's that part there where the thumb was. And then once you've got that, then place the microphone on the tripod. And then if you've got the windshield, that will go on the end of there. So the kit should look something like this. If anyone has got the microphone just on the end of the meter, that's fine too. So let's go on to the meter itself. I'll do a virtual screen of the meter. So your sound level meter might look like this, or it's going to look like this when you turn it on. So if you aren't on this application screen, don't worry. You would have seen it, I guess, when you turned on the meter for today. What we have here are the applications, and these applications load in all the settings for us. So today we're going to create a new application, a new app, so that all the settings that I run over today are saved within this app. So the next time you turn on the meter, you can just tap the app and it will load up all the right settings for you. Now, if you're on this screen and you're wondering, well, Anthony, how do I get to the app screen? Then this is how you do it. So on your meter, press the setup key, which is the key at the bottom here. And then you should get to the setup menu. And then you need to go down to applications. And then you're on the app screen. So to start this off, what we need to do is go into the environmental option in the top right. So the app in the top right, if you can press this, it will just give you a list of all the settings that we do have in the meter, all the apps. And the one that hopefully we can start with today is in your list somewhere. You should have one that already says NNR. So I've got one at the top. If you don't have one that says NNR, then we can create one. And in which case, if you don't, then you're going to need to load in the default. So I'm going to load in the default. If you've got the NNR one, you can start there. And then if you just press the tick on the bottom of the screen, it will load in the settings for the meter. So if you load it in the default app, like I've done, the first step we want to do is just set up our screen. So if you just go to Setup on the keypad and go to Views, so that's fifth down in the Setup menu, just untick all the other views that we have on there and just leave the one at the top that says LT with a tick. So if you haven't managed to get to this menu, you press the Setup key and then you go to Views. And then we turn off all the other options and we just have the top option ticked. And then to save it, we press the tick on the bottom or on the keypad. There's a tick button on the keypad. And then you should get to the screen here. So what we can see here now is just the standard view of the meter. It's showing the level versus time. And as I'm talking, you can see the sounds going up and down. So what's going to happen is when we install this in the property, it's going to record the sound levels, the numbers throughout the days. And it will do that every 1 second. And then once the resident presses the hand switch, it will capture an audio file that will then go with this chart data. So the chart helps you see through the week what the levels were. And you'll see in the nighttime, they drop quite a lot. And then obviously when they start hearing the noise, you should start to see the graph going up and down. The typical level that you'll get from the property next door will actually be very low because it will have decayed, attenuated from the wall. So you'll probably start to see levels of around 30, could be 40 if it's not very well insulated. So that is quite normal. And then you're going to have to listen very carefully to the sound. You might have to turn up the speakers sometimes to actually be able to hear it. On the screen, we have the date and time on the top, the decibel level underneath. You should have your power settings on the left, and that will tell you how much battery you have. So the meters have a lithium battery in that's rechargeable. And on the top of the meter, you'll have a LED. So my LED is currently blue. That just means it's in standby mode. But once it's recording, it will go green. And if you record an audio, it will flash green. And then on the bottom of the keypad, you have the calibration button, the memory button, the setup button, and then you start stop as well. And then you will have the tick and the cross. So you'll see the tick and the cross throughout the settings menus. So you'll either be able to touch them on the screen, or you can use the keypad to accept the changes. So we'll make a start into the settings and we'll cover the calibration a bit later. So if we go to the setup, so if I press the setup key, the first option we want to look at is measurement. So in the setup, this helps you change any of the settings in the meter to make sure it works properly. But the one specifically we're going to look at is setting the measurement settings. So this one here. And yeah, there's quite a few options. So we're going to start from the top. If we look at the global and profile time, this is how long the measurement will run for, this global time. So it's basically the start and the finish time. So if you click on global time, you'll be able to set the meter to run for 7 days. So it's days, hours, minutes, seconds. So if you just use the Wheel of Fortune to set that to 7 days, and then press the tick key on the bottom of the key screen or the keypad, and then you should see 7 or 07 in global time. So that means it runs now for 7 days. And then underneath this, you have the profile A. So the profile A is the chart. You know, when you saw the chart at the start, it's how often is it logging the decibel level. So profile A should be set to 1 second. So it should look like this. So that means we're logging the decibel level every 1 second. So we've got that nice chart that we can refer to. So when we're listening to the audio, we can actually see the chart, the noise levels going up and down. If you're an advanced user in the session, let's say you're doing your BS4142, and you need a faster logging, then you would set it here. So you can go down to milliseconds if you need to. So you could go down to 25 milliseconds for BS4142. But in this case, this is just noise nuisance, so we would leave it at 1 second. And I wouldn't really recommend going any faster than 1 second for noise nuisance, unless you've got a special case, then in which case you may decide to make a change. So if we press the tick on the screen, then that's saved, and now I've got 1 second in profile A. You can ignore profile B and profile moving. Some meters won't have this. But for those that do environmental measurements, where you need a 15-minute value, maybe an hour, then you can actually log this as an additional parameter. But for NNR, we won't need this. So if we press the tick on the screen, we should be able to get back, and then we should see on the newer meters, at least, it will give you a summary of what that setting is. So it might say 7 days, or it might be in like a number value. So we should have 7 days under global and 1 second as the profile A. We can then move down to the frequency settings. Now, for a lot of people, this frequency settings here will be grayed out. But for those that do have it and want to measure frequency, then you can tap into this setting. And you can turn on the filter as on. And then you would set the bandwidth to 3rd octaves. So they're actually the only 2 settings in the frequency to change. I think if you're just doing standard noise nuisance, you won't necessarily need this, because you can listen to the audio and generally make an observation from that. But for those doing the more advanced measurements, then you could turn this on, and that will give you the frequency spectrum. And then once you're happy, just press the tick on the screen or on the keypad. We can skip past percentiles. We won't need this. But for users that do, you can enable it in there. And then in the functions, there's going to be a lot of tick boxes. So yeah, don't worry too much about all these ticks here, but you do need to make sure that the top one here is enabled at least. So the LAEQ needs a tick under the GA and then a tick under the PA. So just those 2 are the most important. So LAEQ, the top one, a tick under G and a tick under PA. And that just really is just telling the meter just to save this data to the memory card. There's nothing more than that you need to know about. For anyone doing those advanced measurements, so I mentioned about the percentiles, then you should tick the LAN. On my meter, it's already ticked, to be honest. And there's an LAF SPL that should be ticked if you're doing advanced measurements as well. There's some max in there as well. So anyone that's more advanced, you should enable those settings. But if you need to do this, then I would recommend that you go to our website and have a look at our advanced guides that will tell you how to do this. So for those advanced users in the training today, this will be covered under the 145. And in the advanced training guide, that goes through exactly those settings for the advanced features. Okay, so back to the meter. So if you're happy, you've got LAEQ ticked under G and PA, then press the tick on the bottom of the keypad on the screen. And then we've got a summary of those functions selected. And now we're going to get to the the more interesting part, the audio recording. So the audio recordings should show a tick next to this. So if you tap on audio recording, then you'll be able to change the sampling rate to 48. And then you can change your resolution to 16 bits. Mine's already set. And then the gain, mine's set to 12, but this should actually be set to 48 dB. And then the final one at the bottom, pre-trigger. This pre-trigger is linked to the hand switch for the audio recording. So you want an audio recording. So what's going to happen is when you put the equipment in the property, the equipment's going to be running for the whole week. And the resident's going to hear the next door neighbor's dog barking. Yeah. But sometimes the resident will fabricate the situation, right? They will tap the fence to set the dog off so they can get some recordings of the dog barking because, you know, just maybe this week it's not really making the noise, or they want to make the situation seem a lot worse than what it is. So, you know, that you set the dog off intentionally, and then you've got these recordings then to listen to, and then you think, well, it is, the dog's terrible, but actually maybe it isn't. So we use this pre-trigger to record the sound before the resident presses the hand switch. So when the resident presses that hand switch, this pre-trigger will capture the sound up to 120 seconds before they press that button. Now, we tend to do 30 seconds. Some local authorities will do 60. You can pick and choose whatever value works for you. 30 seconds is generally enough time, but you could go to 60. And that just captures the sound up to that event of them pressing that hand trigger. So normally then what will happen is when you listen to the recordings, you'll hear something like, oh, Deirdre, go and tap the wall so the dog starts barking. And then they do that, and then they press the switch, and then they go and capture the sound. And then hopefully then when you hear it, you'll hear them causing the dog to bark. So audio recording, the sampling rate is 48 kilohertz, the resolution 16-bit, the gain's 48, and the pre-trigger, you decide, but I've gone with 30. And once you're happy with those settings, then you press a tick. So yeah, hopefully everybody's managed to get those set up. I see there's no questions. So are there questions? Oh, my bad. I don't know why mine's not showing any questions. Q&A. Okay, all right. Sorry, my Teams wasn't reloading. So let's have a look. Okay, yeah, I will come back to some of them questions a bit later. Yeah, hopefully your meters are all, you've managed to change all the settings in there. So let's have a look at the next part underneath the audio recording. So we're in the measurement screen. We've completed the audio recording settings. We've now got the storage mode. So in storage mode, which is here, then you can set the meter to how it should run. So we normally set this to automatic. So it means when you press the start button, it will run for the 7 days, and then it will stop and save the measurement at the end of the 7 days. If you want it to run for a longer period, so you want to install this in a property and to run for like 2 weeks, then what you would do is set this to repeat, and it would then create a 7-day measurement for the first period, and then it would stop and save those 7 days, and then it would automatically start a new measurement for 7 days, and it will keep doing this on repeat until you get to the property and stop the measurement. So you can do either setting, you can do repeat or auto. I will go with auto because I just need a 7-day measurement, but you might go for repeat. So they're the settings in the measurement. So global and profile time set to 7 days, 1 second. The next important one was the audio recording. So just making sure it's set to 48 kilohertz, 16-bit, 48 dB gain, and the pre-trigger. And then your storage mode should say auto or repeat at the bottom here. Then once you're happy with these settings, then you press the tick on the bottom of the screen, and it will bring you back to the setup menu. And then we can look at one of the other settings. So if you've gone back to this screen and you need to get back to the setup, then just press the setup here. Okay, so in the setup, we've done the measurement. The next part is the trigger. So if we go to trigger here, this trigger is how it controls the hand switch. So at the top of the meter, the global should be set to manual. And I've got a delay of 0 seconds, which is fine. But if you tap into there, you can just make sure that it's ticked under manual trigger. And what you can do is, if you want to, you can set a delay. So the idea is that when you press the start button, it will count down from this number here. So if I press start, it would go 3, 2, 1, and then start measuring. Or you can just leave it at 0. So just really make sure right now that you set it to manual trigger. Do not set it to clock or any of these other settings at the bottom here. This global trigger is just, it controls how the start button works. The only reason for the other options is so that people can be creative and make the meter start at a certain time of day, which is not ideal for noise nuisance. You just want it to start as soon as you get the property. So if you're happy with this setting, then you just press the tick. So then at the top, global measurement should say manual with a delay of 3 seconds or 0, and I've set mine to 0. The next part is then to set up the actual hand switch, the trigger switch. So under the events here, we've got the option 0. You might have all the others grayed out. That's not a problem. But first start with ticking this 0 here. This might not say recording. It might say something different. And that's fine because we're going to change it now. So we just need to change the first event. And this one here is the control settings for the hand switch. So if you click into it, it will look something like this. So to make the hand switch work, what you need to do is to click a tick on the external. So mine's currently crossed. So that actually needs to have a tick at the top. And the one underneath, the threshold, needs to be crossed. So your external should be ticked. And if I click it, it shows you a diagram of the socket on the side. So that's why it needs to be ticked, because what it's doing, it's sending the signal down this socket to your hand switch. So here it is. And then the threshold should be off. And the reason that's off is because we don't want the recording of the sound happening automatically. This is a very special setting for advanced users where you've got a resident that can't press the hand switch. Maybe you need it to record sound over a certain decibel level. But to be honest, it still doesn't work that well. If the sound level is it changes quite a lot because, you know, if you set this at 40 dB, the chances are in the daytime, the resident just walking around the house making a cup of coffee, it's going to go over 40 dB and it will just constantly record sound. So it'll literally just be recording them all day, which is not ideal. And then your memory card fills up. So this is to be used with, yeah, a lot of thought. So external ticked, threshold off. You need to set the max action time, which is the duration of the trigger switch. How long do you want it to record audio for? Then you need to set this to 3 minutes. Now, some organizations set this to 5. Some set this at 2 or 1, or it can be anything. It's just how long do you want to listen to the audio file for? So I've gone with 3 minutes. And then it should appear next to max action time here. Okay. So after the max action time, there are lots of different settings there. You won't need these, but there are some controls that you can put on the hand switch. So you can make it work between certain times a day, which is using time span. But I really wouldn't recommend this because you then tend to get the resident calling up saying the hand switch doesn't work. I wanted to press it at a certain time, and because you put a control on it, it isn't working. So I'd leave that off. But this may be useful for advanced users that want to look into the manual and see like you've got a special case, a bit of an issue. You could then be more creative. The recording needs to be ticked at the bottom there. Just go back. So the recording on the screen needs to be set to ticked. And once you have all these settings that match something similar to mine, you'll be able to save it by pressing the tick key on the bottom of the screen. Okay, so I've saved my settings. So now I can see a summary of the triggers. It says triggers at the top. My manual is set to, sorry, my global is set to manual. And then my events are set to recording. And it should now say external underneath in this one for the hand switch. If that doesn't say external, then you need to go back and just make sure this top one is ticked here. And this threshold is off. So this needs to say external. And then you would then press the tick on the bottom of the screen to go back, and then you should be back in the setup menu. If anyone's gone back to this screen, then just press this setup key to go back into the setup. And then we'll look at the marker. So this one here, marker. So there are lots of custom markers that you can make. And perhaps leave that for a Friday afternoon job. This is for people that want to use the meter as a handheld. But there is one for noise nuisance that's really useful. Under properties, there's one called show battery marker. If you just tick this. So I've set that now, so my battery marker is ticked. What this does is when you're running the instrument for the week in the property, it will give you a red or a black line that shows when it's been running on the battery. And that can be quite useful for determining whether maybe these sound recordings that we've got, it doesn't sound quite right. It seems like they put it in the garden or they've moved it somewhere. So you know then if the battery markers come on, it means that they've disconnected the power. Now, was that just because they plugged in the Hoover, or was it because they unplugged it and then moved the equipment to another room when you asked them to keep it in the same place? So it's just a helpful identifier. So that was under the properties. And when you're happy with that, to save it, you just press the tick key and the tick key, and then you'll go back to the setup menu. And then we've just got the last few settings here now. So if we go down to the instrument menu, so at the bottom of the screen here, you can see there's lots of settings for the actual meter that you can play around with, like making sure your date and time is set to the right time, the right date. So you'll be able to tap that and change it. The name of the meter, you can give it a name here. And obviously you can change the language as well. But the one that we're most interested in just for the hand switch is just making sure this top one here, digital and analog I/O. This top setting, digital output 1. So this top setting here, we just need to make sure that this is set to recording. Now it should be set already, but if it isn't, then this is quite important. So digital output 1 needs to be set to recording. So it should look exactly like this. So once you're happy with it, press the tick key to save it and the tick key again. So I'm just going to show you again where those settings are in case anyone wasn't following along, they got lost. So that was under setup. You go down to instrument. You go to digital and analog I/O. And then you set digital output 1 to recording. So this one here to recording. And once you're happy, then just press the tick keys to save this. Okay. So that should be the main parts of the settings for the meter. So you've got it all configured. Well done. We just need to check now that our hand switch works. And if it isn't, then we'll try and remedy it. And we're going to do this. We're just going to do the check before we save this setup, because we can save it so that we can recall this at a later date. So you don't need to go back through these settings again. So if we just press the tick key to go back to the measurement screen, it should look like this. And then what I want you to do is just to plug in your hand switch now to the meter, which you might have done already at the start of the session. So I'm just going to plug mine in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to press the start key on the keypad, and we're going to test out the meter to see if it works. So on my instrument is now running. I know this because I've got a green light on the top of the meter. And now it's recording the sound. And then if I press the hand switch, my notes then goes orange. And if I click it, it shows that I'm recording. And then I've got a green flashing light on the top of the meter. So this is now recording audio, and it will run now for the next few minutes. So what would happen when we go to deploy this equipment in the residence property? We go and install the equipment in the property, set everything up on the tripod. We load in our application for NNR, and then we're going to start the measurement like we've done after doing a calibration. And then the first recording, which I'm doing now, will be an introduction to say, my name's Anthony, I'm at Campbell Associates at Sonatus House in Essex, and XYZ. So you have a verbal agreement of you setting this meter up and that it's going to run for the X amount of days. And then this will be a useful reference recording so that when you're listening to all the other sounds, you kind of have a bit of an idea as well of like how the room sounded and, you know, the quality of the recording. So this will run now, and we can then stop the measurement by pressing the stop key once we've done at the end of the week. And it should look something like this when you pick it up. So hopefully you managed to get your hand switch working. If you haven't, then drop me a message in the chat now, and then we can take a look and see what might be missing. One thing to do at the moment is if you're done with this measurement, is just press the X key on the keypad, and it will just reset the meter to a blue standby mode and clear what was in the screen. It doesn't delete the measurement, it just like resets it ready for the next measurement. So there was a question about the hand switch, which you just tried now. Someone said whether the hand switches could be changed to have a different socket, so you didn't need to use a screwdriver. Yeah, in these versions we were never able to get a different connector. But in our new Larson Davis meters, we have an easier design. It's just a push fit snug connector, so you don't even need a screwdriver. Actually, the new Larson Davis hand switches that we use are more robust than the Northsonic ones that we've used previously, so they have a much bigger switch, and they're really cheap to replace compared to Northsonic ones. The Northsonic ones can be quite expensive. So we have made some revisions, but it's actually we spent the development in the new equipment in the new version. It's also a bit easier as well than with going over the settings than this Northsonic one, because there's quite a lot of options here and intricates to set up. We've really focused on those settings in the new equipment to make sure that they're really easy. Okay, so I don't see any questions. I'm just going to just double check because Teams doesn't always show me what it should be showing me. But yeah, it looks like it's up to date, so I can't see any. So I'm going to assume that everybody's managed to set up their meter how they wanted to. If you haven't, don't panic. There is the PDF guides that you can follow up on after this, and you can also just watch back this recording of the session to go through those settings. So you can either watch the video or look at the PDF, and the PDFs are really good because they've got every print screen that tells you exactly what you need to do to set up your meter. Now, we want to save these settings, so go to Setup, and then go to Memory. So that was Setup, Memory, and we now want to save our setup file. So on my meter, it's here called Manage Setup Files. But on other meters, maybe the 150, it will say something like Save Measurement Setup As. They used to use different wordings over the years. So just look for something like this: Setup Files, Save Measurement Setup As, something around this. And then once you're in there, then you will see then another option called Save Measurement Setup As. So you may have just not had an extra screen like I have. So if I click Save Measurement Setup As, then you should get this kind of option to be able to write a name for the file. So the first thing to do is just make sure that you tick this box at the top that says Show Setup Shortcut, and it will create an app on the front screen. And then if you give it a name, I mean, I tend to call mine something like Free Min NNR, but this name would already exist. So let me just put, I don't know, December just at the end of it, just so we know it's actually the one that I've just made recently, and it's not going to overwrite the one that we've already got set up. So this is the name for the app. So if you give that a name, and then once you're happy with it, just make sure before you save this app, make sure you click Show Setup Shortcut, and then press the tick on the bottom of the screen. So if I press the tick on the bottom of the screen now, it will say Setup Saved Successfully. If you press the X on the bottom of the screen until you get back to the start, and then we're going to load in those settings that we've just saved. So let me show you how to get the app now. Hopefully everybody's given it a name. Just give you another 10 or so seconds just to get that name set up. So to load in the setup file, go to setup. And then at the bottom of the meter, you've got applications. And then you should see the app that you've created. So mine was 3-minute NNR December. You can tap on that and load in your settings. Now, if you don't see your app, you're thinking, why is my app not there? Then it will be in the environmental menu. So just click this one at the top, the top right, the environmental, and then you will see it under user setup. So you can load it this way instead. So you can go ahead and just tap the app or do it this way that I've just done. If your app isn't showing, the reason for that was because you didn't tick this tick box at the top that said show setup shortcut. So if you just do that now, the next time you come back to applications, you'll be able to load it and see it. If you want to delete apps that you don't need anymore, then you can see there's a delete button at the bottom. But I want to load in these settings that I set up for today. So I just tap on the tick, and now my meter's all set up with the right settings. So if I go into my settings and go to measurement, I can see my 7 days and 1 second. I can see my audio recordings have the right settings, my storage mode. I can see my triggers have the right settings. And I can see that my marker is set up as well with the battery marker. Okay, so they're the settings for your meter for today. What we're going to do now is take a short 10-minute break, grab a coffee, and we'll see you back at 10:40. And then if anyone has any questions in the meantime, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll answer them in the moment and show you on the screen share as well. I'll just go and grab a coffee now as well too. See you shortly. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hopefully you've got yourself a coffee. We'll now look at the final part of the instrument, of the actual meter itself. We're going to look at the calibration side. There was a question about the hand trigger switch and for using the threshold level. So when it goes over a certain sound level, it will start recording audio. Yeah, this is a bit of an art to set up. You can certainly use it, but you tend to find that in the daytime, the sound is generally when the residents are in the property, the sound will be like 60, 70 dB quite often as you're talking. So then the trigger tends to be, you set it like say 60, but the sound in the room is often over it. So it's kind of like on all the time or doesn't come back on at all because the sound doesn't drop low enough. So it does take a bit of trial and error. So when you want to use a threshold, my suggestion is really like taking the meter home or putting it in your office and testing out the scenario and see if you can get it working and using the time span setting to help you control when it does record. Really, I would only use the threshold for when you're doing nighttime noise because the sound is already very low. And the resident might not necessarily wake up for every event to record it. So maybe at like 3 in the morning. So then the threshold can be quite a good feature because it will record it when it goes over. But yeah, it kind of needs a bit of trial and error from you, and it will take a few days to set up. So I don't have really good guidance on this because it really depends on the environment that the meter's in. There was a question about how long we will be supporting the 140, 145, 154. So I mean, at Northsonic, at Campbell Associates, we will support the meters as long as possible. We carry a lot of spares here, and we always try and repair and the meters. We can always calibrate meters. We've been able to calibrate meters that are 30 years old. So on that side of things, it's not a problem. Just on sort of the functionality side, you just need to bear in mind with your equipment, they are computers, just like your mobile phones, and eventually, the processors get slower because they wear out. So on the 140s, they're coming on to about 20 years old now. Some will be a bit younger, but the technology is very old. And we do find with the SD cards, they're much harder to get. So that's just the kind of problems that you will run into. And I think that happens even with your laptops, The 145, 150, I think they're coming on 10 years old now. So yeah, but they work fine. Yeah, so they should be fine. Just if you start running into issues, then it might be worth considering like replacing the SD cards because the SD cards will get errors on them as well. But what we should be doing for reliability is making sure that we format the SD cards before we put the equipment out into properties. So I will show you that in a moment. So yeah, to answer your question, we will support the meters as long as possible, but we will be moving on to a new wave of technology from Larson Davis that Nick will tell you about in a moment. Yeah, we really need to look at reducing costs for customers. People need to save money. It needs to be under a certain budget. But also we need to look at making equipment easier to use and way simpler, more like using your smartphones and so on. So we've managed to achieve that with newer equipment, spares as well, making sure they're cheap. So we have something so in the future, if you're at the point where you need to replace that equipment, we have new alternatives. So let's look at the format of the memory card. You can't format the memory card on the meter itself, but you can do this in the computer, and I'll show you that a bit later once we've downloaded the measurement. But to format or clear the memory on the meter, so let's say you've gone out to a property and you've gone to press the start button, and then you're like, oh, I haven't got enough memory to start the measurement. Someone didn't clear the memory card. You can go onto the meter and go to memory, and there is the option to delete all measurements here. So I'm not going to say yes. I don't want to delete what's on my meter now, and I don't think you should either in case you've got something that you need to save. But this is how you do it. If you want to go back out of the screen, just press the X key on the keypad and it will bring you back. So to calibrate the meter, let's move on to this next point. So your calibrator will look something like this. It may be round, maybe a different shape, but they will generally say a number on the side. So the Norsonic calibrators tend to say 114. If you have a Larson Davis calibrator, it will say 94 or 114, and you can switch between the two. And this calibrator just needs to be placed on the end of the microphone. Let's just see if in the video it shows you how to do this. So here's your microphone. The calibrator just pushes onto the end of the microphone here. So it will go on about a centimeter. It just pushes on. It's a little snug fit. And then the calibrator will make a sound, like a beep sound, if you just press the on button on the calibrator. And on the meter, you're then going to press the cow button. So there's a cow button on the keypad here, which will bring you to this screen here. If your meter says something at the top like select an input maybe, or it's got another option, you might just need to select the first channel, channel 1. So if you have that, press that. I'm sorry if you have that extra screen. Some meters did have this screen. But you're looking to get to this menu here. And then you can adjust the calibration sensitivity by pressing auto and it will do it automatically for you, or you can do it manually. And then you just press plus or minus. So let me place the calibrator on my microphone and turn it on. So it should look like this. Or if you're in just this screen here, then it will show you the number in very small letters here, 114. So you're looking to match what's on the calibrator. So some people can just press the auto and then press calibrate, and it will adjust the level itself. So it'll start adjusting the level until it reads 114. And then it'll flash up finished. And then you just press a tick to save it. Or if you want to do it the manual way, then you just press the minus or plus button at the bottom until it reads 114. Generally, you tend to find that it always reads near enough 114. So you only need to press this plus or minus button once or twice. So it's probably easier doing it in the manual way because you've got the nice big screen. And then there's a sensitivity at the bottom in orange in small text. That should read around minus 25, minus 26, minus 27 maybe. All meters are different. As long as it's around that sort of number, then it should be fine. You will get a little bit of drift throughout the year with the temperature. But long as it's not drifting from, I don't know, 25 to 28. So you did it at the start and it was 25, and then you did it after and it started reading 26, 27, 28. You know, if it's gone more than a dB, then there is a bit of concern whether the cable's got damaged or the microphone's got damaged. So you just press a tick to save it and then tick again to save again. But you should see, I've left the calibrator on the end of the meter. You should see it show 114. So as long as you've got that, you know that your microphone's working. And then I'll just take the calibrator off the end of the microphone. And that's done. So the process is from start to finish. You're in the office first, just make sure that your memory card is new. Make sure it's formatted and clear. Make sure there's no measurements on there from before, because you want to be able to save. Test the equipment in your office first. So load in your settings. So let's do that. We're going to go to Setup, go to Applications, and then we're going to load in our app that we made today. So I'm going to tap on the app and then press the tick key. I'm going to load in all of my settings, and then I'm going to test the meter and press the start key. And I'm just going to make sure that it all works fine. I'm going to check my hand switch. I get my notes. I know it's recording. So I'm happy with that. And then I'll stop it. And then we've got the blue light on. We've got a measurement here. So I'm just going to clear that by pressing the X key. So I know everything's working. So then I'll go out to the property and install the equipment, set it all up, and then I'll carry out my calibration. And once my calibration is complete, I'll then press the start key and then do my introduction. And the meter will be left for a week recording. And then at the end of the week, I'm going to repeat the process of calibration to make sure that the microphone is okay and it's not been damaged by the resident. And yeah, then we can pack it up and come back to the office to download it. So I'll show you the download process in a moment through the software, how to listen to those audio recordings. That's it for the meter. If there are any questions now on the meter, if there's anything that you're unsure of, let me know now and I'll answer that before I hand over to Nick. Okay. Nick, if you want to take over, just give us 5 minutes of your time, and then we'll go on to the software for the download.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Nick.
Hello. I'll just share my screen with a PowerPoint on. Hello everyone and good morning. My name is Nick. I've worked with instrumentation for over 12 years, 8 of which specialising in sound level and vibration equipment. Over the last 8 years, I've mainly worked with Larsen Davis products, but I do the service and repair of other manufacturers as well. My current role is I'm responsible for sales and technical support. My role is to help with any technical questions you may have. A little introduction to Larsen Davis themselves as a company. They were founded in 1981. They're an American company. During this time, they've proven themselves to be one of the industry leaders in sound level equipment, providing a real reliable and cost-effective solution to most people's needs. All their instruments come with a 2-year warranty and the microphones come with a 5-year warranty, which proves that they have a lot of trust in their instrumentation. The Sound Expert itself is a really modern design. It's got a large touchscreen display, simple on and off button design. The rest is done by touchscreen. It is really nice, fits really nice into your hand, ergonomically designed. It's got simple and effective menus, so you're not going through 4 or 5 different pages to change setups. It's very simple to do. It's got Bluetooth connectivity, so it connects to your laptop to change settings, or you can also connect it to your phone using the Atlas app. It's got an automatic calibration function, which I'll go through in a bit. It's got USB-C charging with an internal battery life of up to 40 hours, which is quite a lot compared to other products. And it also has wireless charging, which is quite handy. We've put together the Sound Expert in an NNR kit, simple to the Norsonic kits. After collecting feedback from customers, they expressed 3 main priorities when purchasing new equipment: price, ease of use, and simple data download. And we're confident that this kit it satisfies all them priorities. It's really nice kit. The complete Sound Expert NNR kit will fit inside of the Peli case. It also allows you to keep all your cables connected at the same time. So it helps with deployment, and you're not disconnecting and reconnecting the extension cable and the power cable and the trigger. As well as ease of use, we've ensured that we not only use reliable and dependable components, but the components are priced more competitively than Norsonic products. As an example, to replace a Norsonic charger, it would cost £495, whereas the Sound Expert is £29. So it's a big saving. We understand accidents happen when the meters are getting deployed, and to send a bill for £500 for one single component, just it doesn't feel right. As I mentioned previously, that the calibration function is automatic on the Sound Expert. This process is easy, as in inserting the microphone into your calibrator and turning the calibrator on. At this point, a window will open automatically on the Sound Expert. Once the level on the calibrator is stabilized, you will get a notification to and you can press accept on this notification. Once you press accept, the meter will log the calibration history and the sensitivity of the microphone. This also means that the calibration is done and you're free to use the instrument as you wish. Lars and Tafis use G4 software. The software is free to purchase. Oh, well, no purchase necessary, and it doesn't require a license, so it can be installed on any amount of computers that you need without paying any costs towards that. The software gives you graphs to view and allows the operator to stop and start the measurements, as well as listen to sound recordings. It's extremely easy to use, and the files can be downloaded within a matter of minutes, allowing for a quick turnaround. Sound recordings can easily be saved as a WAV file, which can be played using most media players. The software also allows you to make reports, which can be customized to include or exclude data as you wish. You can customize the report with your company logo. This report can include pre and post calibration data, start, stop and runtime, frequency data, graphs, and much more. This report can be easily emailed to yourself along with the audio files and G4 data. Using Bluetooth, you can connect the Sound Expert to your mobile phone using the Atlas app. The Atlas app allows your smartphone to become the keypad and display for the Sound Expert. The Atlas app allows you to check the status of the meter, manage instrument setups, run and stop measurements, view files, and set schedules. The Atlas app is available on Android and iOS. We also offer the Sound Expert as an environmental kit. The Sound Expert itself has got very little power use, so combined with a quite small battery, we can get 14 days of usage out of the meter and the external battery. So this is very handy for if you are doing environmental testing and you need to cross a field or put it in remote location where power is not available. It comes with a weatherproof case, a retractable monopole, a microphone protection seal. So yeah, it's really handy. It's lightweight as well. So it's a good piece of equipment. Thank you for your time today. If you would like any more information on the Sound Expert, I would like to arrange a demonstration. Please do not hesitate to contact me using the details shown. Thank you again.
Thanks, Nick. So Nick's a great contact if you need any support with your current equipment, but he'll be here for the long term for helping you with any new equipment that you may use. We appreciate you listening to that part. This obviously helps support us doing the training, which we do for free every year to support customers with using their equipment. Yeah, I think the microphone's working. Yeah. So yeah, it's just to show you now, we are trying to make improvements and try and give you the best equipment. So really, you need equipment that's just simple and easy to use, and it's quite nice for this meter where you can use the app as Nick showed you, and the software, which is about the part that I'm going to show you now, for the NNR 145. So I'm going to show you the download process. I've taken out my SD card from the meter, and I've placed that in my PC, and I'm going to show you where that is now. So the SD card should appear on the left-hand side. Mine's called the USB drive. And then you can go into here, into the files. And as you go down, you should be able to find your last measurement file. So I've got one here. And in that folder called recording, then you should have a list of all the recordings from the measurement for that week. Oh, thank you very much. The screen wasn't sharing, so let me just start that again. Thanks for making the message there. Yeah, so I've plugged in the SD card, and on the left-hand side, you can see the USB drive on the left, and you can go through the folders, so NNR, the 145, and eventually you'll get through to the measurement file. So mine are saved by date. Now, it is possible to save the measurements on the meter with your own name. So if you ever want to do that, you'll press the memory key, and in this menu, you'll be able to see all the measurements and rename the file. So that can be quite handy if you want to name it as the address. And then when you're looking in this folder, then you can just find the address rather than the date. But I mean, it's quite straightforward. We know when we go to pick up the equipment, it will be on that date. So we'll just look for the 10th of December. We'll have a look at what time we picked it up, 10:52. So yeah, it's not too much of a problem anyway. And then you can just go through to the recordings folder, and then you can start to play those recordings. So you can just double click them and open in Windows Media Player. For those that just want a very quick and simple way of doing this. You can open the measurement file. So there is one called measurement.config here. You can open that with NNR View. So if you ask IT, they could set that to default to NNR View. If you can't do that because some IT departments will just ignore you and not set it up, then the alternative way of doing this is to open up NNR View. So go to your start menu and go to NNR View and open that up. And then it will look like this. And what you'll need to do is to just download this measurement by dragging the measurement.config file onto this gray panel. And then it should open like this with a graph. And then you'll have the green bars across the top with the audio recordings. So you can press the play icon at the top. If you can't see that, you could right click on the gray area and enable it by clicking, I think it's marker. So you just need to enable the same ones that I've got. Or to play the recording, you can press the space bar. So then you'll see like a line going through the recording as you're listening to it. And then you can start to see, as you're hearing it, you'll hear, I don't know, some banging, and then you should see the graph start to go up. So what you might want to do then is to make some notes on NNR View so you can build a bit of a case. So underneath you've got the marker. If you don't see this marker area, you go to marker at the top here and turn on marker management. So that turns this on or off, marker management. And then on the audio recordings, you've got a notes tab. And if you press the F2 key, then you can type in a description of what this is. Audio off, loud music. And then for each recording that you've got, you can click on it and it'll take you to it. It will show you the total duration here, and it will count the number of recordings. You can save this if you want. You could just copy this table into an email if you needed to, or into a Word document. So for example, if you want this graph here in a Word document, you can right click on the graph and go to generate document. That will open up Word and it will copy the image in. And then if you go back to NNR Review, then you can copy this table and paste it underneath. You could put this into Excel first and copy it into here if you want a better format. In the software, you've got the zoom in and zoom out buttons at the top. So they are here. There's one to zoom out completely. And then what you can do is you can right click on the graph. Sorry, I'm going to right click. I'm going to left click on the graph. And then you can highlight an area that you're interested in. And then you can insert a marker. So you can go to marker here, and then you can give this a name. So let's say this part of this recording is spiking quite a lot. You could mark that as music and give it a color. Press OK. And then as you then start going through your recordings, you could mark those other parts as music. So I'm going to highlight a few bits here. I've got a marker saved now. And now we've got two parts of recordings. And the idea is as you go through the recording, if you've got lots of events of dog barking, you just go through and mark up all the dogs barking. And then it will count them up for you. So you can say, well, yeah, we've had 15 instances of the dog barking. It lasted for 1 minute, 30 seconds. Yeah, and then you can start putting some notes next to them. So there are some clever things that you can do in NNR Review. So you can go to calculations and run some additional calculations on the measurement. So you can actually put the noise level by the side if you need to. For the tables, this can be done by going to the markers because we've got markers at the bottom here. So you go to calculations and then you can add the average if you want to for the noise. So we select the LAQ, go to add. And then it will calculate what the sound level was for each dog bark or music or whatever it was for your labels, what the average noise level was. So you can do some creative things like that. Now, this is the NNR Review software. So this software is normally paid for, but when we sold you the equipment, everybody should have a license of this. There is some other software that you can use. So if you just want to listen to the recordings and download the measurements, then there is some software called NNR Connect, and I'll show you that in a moment. Now, when you come to finishing with your NNR Review project, if you go to File and Save Project As, we can save what we've worked on today. So go to Save Project As, and then pick a location of where you want to save your measurement. And then give this a name. So 13 West End, London, let's say. And then when you're saving this, if you want to make sure all the audio files are saved in the folder, then just make sure that you click Create Project Name and Subfolder. And then it will save it into your measurements. It will save all the notes that I've made, and it will copy all the recordings in. So that's just a really important part of doing this for NNR Review. So I'm going to show you the the other way of downloading. There is a couple of ways with the North equipment. So I'll just close this down, save that. So there is some software from North called NorConnect, which you can install. This does make downloading the audio, the recordings easier, to be honest. So if you load up NorConnect, you can then see this application here, and it allows you to see what's on the meter via the USB or the SD card. So on the right-hand side, this will show you the measurements that are on the SD card. And then on the right-hand side, this is where they're going to be saved on your computer. So you need to make sure that this menu at the top is set to General Analyzer. And then once you've done that, these measurements on the right, you want to download, you can select them, and then you can drag and drop them on the left side. And then they have been downloaded from the SD card. And then from there, you can double click them and you can play the audio files by pressing the space bar. That's all the software can do on NorConnect. It's just a very basic kind of listening software. But you can then open it into NorReview. So you can click NorReview up here, and then it'll open it into NorReview. So you have those two options there. You can either go straight to the SD card from Windows, look at the recordings this way. You can drag them into NorReview and do this way. This is traditionally how we used to do it. But now Norsonic have this new software called NorConnect, and then you can do it this way too. There are some guides on our website that shows you how to use NorConnect. Okay, so I'm just going to see if there's any questions in the chat because we're coming to the end now. So one question was if we're still supporting the calibration of the Norsonic equipment. Of course, yes, we are. We can calibrate any make or model of meter generally. So we calibrate B&K's equipment as well. So any meter that you've got, we can calibrate, and Norsonics will always calibrate and service. Actually, a lot of the parts, components we have here, if you will struggle to get them from Norsonic, but we do know on some of the older meters from Norsonic, you can't get some of the parts anymore. Whereas luckily we've still got some on the shelf here to try and help. So yeah, please continue to use us for the calibration. Yeah, we're still doing the full support, and if you do get stuck, then drop us an email. So just if you need support after this, then you can raise a ticket by going to our website and click raise a ticket. And on here, you can complete the form and just tell us what the issue is, and then we'll come back to you. If not, we have a support email. Let me just go back up. So if you want to save this email here, support@campbell-associates.co.uk, just drop us an email and include like a print screen and tell us what meter you've got and explain the problem. And then we can come back to you and say, yeah, this is what you need to do. We've got a lot of PDF guides already, so we can just send you one of those, or maybe we've got a video online that shows you how to do it. And the same for like NorReview. There might be things that as an advanced user you might want to do. So maybe there's something for some frequency stuff. I've probably got a video somewhere that I can send you that explains what to do. Right, so I'm just going to check the question answer. I think we've got a question. Is it quicker to download the data from NorConnect rather than using NorReview? To be honest, it's not any quicker than using NorConnect. Yeah, it's just user preference. To be honest, it may be a bit easier to use NorConnect because you can see the measurements on the right hand side, and then you can drag them, and then you know they're on the computer. So I think in that side it's probably a bit better. And then you don't necessarily need to use NorReview because yeah, if you're not used to using NorReview, it can be a little bit clunky for getting the measurements downloaded, as you saw. So you might need to do just the training first. So I find NNR Connect's a bit easier for new users. Yeah, there was a question about if we've got more guides for NNR review. We certainly do. So in the product support, I've got a section here on NNR review, and that shows you how to install it. And probably the best one to use at the start is just the basic guide. That just shows you just like how to download it and how to set up the screen. I mean, if you're not looking at doing any reports, you might actually just be better using NNR Connect and just playing the audio files. Okie dokie. So I don't know if there's anyone else who's got any more questions. Happy to answer them. I'm happy to stay in the chat for a few more minutes. But I think that concludes the training for today. We appreciate you joining us to get refreshed on how to use your equipment. Yeah, please use our website for support. It's a great place to start. There's a lot of materials on there. We're wishing you a good Christmas and good luck with your measurements. And if you need something, the support, the calibration, please contact us. We're happy to help. And just bear in mind, make sure you note down your discount code if you need your calibration. But we will pop you an email in the next few days just to say, yeah, here it is. Here's the form, and you're welcome to use it. So yeah, thank you for joining. Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you all soon.